all you have to do is say, Lord, I have come home. Open wide thine arms of love and receive me. I've come home. So if you read the book of Luke chapter 15 where we have read, you see three parables. The first parable you see there is about a shepherd who lost his sheep. And then after he found it, he was so happy, then he called his friends and said, rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. The second parable you see there is about a woman who lost her coin. After she lost her coin among the 10 in her hairpiece, she looked for that lost coin. She could not sleep. She swept everywhere, cleaned the whole place until she found the lost coin. And then she called her friends and said, I have found my lost coin. Rejoice with me. Then Jesus then said, there is joy in heaven when one sinner repented. Then the third parable you see there is about the prodigal son. He claimed his inheritance from the father, went and spent it riotously with women, drinking, living the life of the world. Then later on he realized, I'm wasting my life. This is not fun. I'm wasting my life actually. Anytime from now, I'll be held accountable before God. Let me return, and I believe and I'm happy that realization upon this young man to say, let me return back to the Father was the best thing he could do in his life. And I just pray the same realization, don't your eyes, don't your mind, that it is better to go back to God than to continue living this life. Some of us have went into sin because we are driven by lust. This is Samson. He was lusting after the Kevi, Delilah. He was lusting after the yellow-bone, Delilah. He was lusting after this sweet talker, Delilah. Then he went into sin. Then before he knew it, Delilah had shaved off his strength. But many have went into sin because of lust. And before we knew it, that sin had shaved off our power, our reasoning. And we could not even care for our own lives. We could not even care whatever thing we do. We then gave up and say, now it's pointless to go back to God. Now it's pointless to serve God. I have crossed the line. You were telling yourself that. And then Satan also came and told you it's useless, it's pointless to pray. God will never receive you. God will never accept you. Whenever the devil tells you that, dear sinner, remember Samson. A hopeless situation, a hopeless case. He's in the hole of the Philistines, scoffers. They are laughing at him that, where is your God now? But at least you still have breath. They shaved off Samson's hair, where his strength lied. Then they took off his eyes. He was now blind. But in that situation, he could not have eyes to see. There was no preacher to preach to him. Something dawned to Samson to say there is a possibility. If I return back to God, you accept me, you receive me, and you change the story of my life. Brother, you still have your eyes. You still have your legs. You are not even sick. Why don't you return to God while at least you are in your good health? You may never know. You hear some people saying, I'll make right at my deathbed. Not everyone will have such an opportunity like the one given to the thief at the cross. Before he stepped into hell, Jesus held his hand and said, you shall be with me tonight in paradise. Not everyone will have such an opportunity. Well, at least there's still breath in your heart. Well, at least you can still reason. Well, at least you still have your eyes, you still have your legs, you still have good health. Why don't you come and save Jesus? He's ready, and like that father of the prodigal son, he's waiting by the wayside, saying, one of these days, my son is going to return. I'll wait for him. And the moment that day this father saw the son coming, he ran after him, received him into his arms, and said, I'm happy. My son that was dead is now alive. My son that was lost is now found. But that's the same thing Jesus will do unto you, fellow sinner. We haven't committed enough sins for you to be called useless. You have not committed enough sins for you to be called, you have crossed the line. There is still hope in you. Some have went into sin because they were running away from the presence of the Lord. This is your Jonah. You went to sin, you went to Tarshish because he was fearing responsibility. He was not willing to serve God. God had given him a calling to go and evangelize in Nineveh, but then He did not want to accept that responsibility. He was fearing, he was lazy, then he ran away from the presence of God. There are many today that are in sin because they are running away from God. God comes sometimes, he speaks to you in your dreams, save me. God comes sometimes, he sends an evangelist, sends a preacher, he sends us to preach unto you even on Facebook, everywhere you are hearing the word, but you are still running away. God comes to you sometimes through warnings, through problems that are just coming to you and don't even understand. Visions, prophecies speaking to you, tongues being interpreted, make right your life, but still you're running away from God. People are telling you you have a calling, you have a purpose, you need to go and preach the message out there, you need to go and testify the gospel, but you're still running away from the presence of God. Why? You fear responsibility. Whenever you are running away from the presence of God because you are fearing responsibility, you don't want to serve God, you are ashamed of being called a Christian, you are ashamed of being seen dressed modestly, you are ashamed of being numbered among the Christians, you are ashamed of talking about God among your friends. Remember the rich young ruler. He had a calling of evangelism in his life, but he wasted his life following after the trends of that time. But then when he lifted up his eyes in hell, he realized his friends were not there. His family was not there. His money was not there. His cell phone was not there. His iPhone 13 was not there. There was no Instagram in hell. There was no TikTok in hell. There was no Facebook in hell. There was no Tinder in hell. There was nothing, no social media platform in hell. It was just him and the torments of hell. Then he cried and said, I've wasted my life. Don't waste your life, dear Christian. Don't waste your life, dear brother. Why don't you come back to God? Jesus is all you have to live for. He loves you. He knows your name. He knows why you are living such kind of a life. And there's a solution for you. Have you asked God about your problems? Have you asked God about that depression you are in? Have you asked God about the disappointments you've been going through? And has He refused to help you? Trust me, He has never refused. But you're just trying to live by your own means, and by that you drifted away from God. But this morning, He's calling you. Come home, my child. There is still a possibility for you to serve God. Some are in sin because they went on with the wrong crowd. Remember the story of William Branham. He said, I could have become a Christian when I was 14, but because I was playing with wrong friends, they swayed me away from God. Do you know there are certain things you have done because you were under pressure? There are certain things you have done because you just wanted to suit in among your friends. Brother, it was very much possible for you not to drink, but you went on to drinking because you were playing with the wrong friends. Brother, do not be deceived. Bad company corrupt good works. Never you convince yourself that I will convert them. You can never convert them because you can never love them more than God. I repeat that line. You will never love your friends more than the way God loves them. God knows they are sinners, but He's not doing anything about them, not because He doesn't love them, He loves them. So never you think you can be better than God to go on with the wrong crowd and still think you remain a Christian. Bad company, corrupt good works. You will receive influence you will never know or think or imagine. You do things and you find yourself doing certain things that are just corrupt. Because bad company, corrupt good works. So William Branham, instead of him becoming a Christian at 14, he denied God because of wrong friends. And they taught him now that you can date a girl, you can do this, you can solve your loneliness by talking to a girl, but you can never solve anything by that. Check out your friends. Are your friends really pushing you to serve God? Or there are such kind of friends always think of having fun? Brother, there is no fun in drinking. There is no fun in going out, watching that, playing that. There is no fun in all that. Yet it might be a solution temporarily, but it's not a solution at all. You're just wasting your life. Some people, they grow up loving God. But the pressures from friends, when they went to the universities, they forsook God. filthy life started to creep in. You know, some have even left God because of anxiety, because they were raised by legalistic guardians.